welcome to episode 46 of the Stop, Drop, and Knit podcast. My name is Lisa. I'm coming to you from Long Island, New York. You can find me on Instagram at Lisa Westervelt Flute Studio and on Ravelry at LisaJack78. So if you are a new viewer, welcome. I hope you will enjoy today's episode. Today I have entirely knitting to share. But on other episodes, other segments will include spinning occasionally and often natural dyeing. So thank you for joining me today. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. So let's get right into it with what am I wearing? We are throwing it back today, guys. We are throwing it back to the 80s. I have never worn this on the podcast before. This is a really special sweater. My mom made this sweater in the 80s. So when I was a kid, my mom did teach me to knit, but it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s and I asked her, I think I was in graduate school. For some reason, I had it in my head that I wanted to learn how to knit argyle socks, which, you know, is not usually the first project one would work on. Interestingly, while I have knit lots and lots of socks, I still have not knit argyle socks. Although maybe I should. So that was why I started knitting in the first place. Was I thought it would be really cool to knit some argyle socks. So maybe I should do that this year finally. Anyway, so when I was a kid, my mom made a lot more things than she does these days. She doesn't really make anything anymore, but she did knit, and she knit this sweater for herself. And now this no longer would fit her at all. She is a different shape and size, and I am now a different shape and size than I was when I was a kid. But she had this sweater for herself. She had made me a matching sweater, and she had also knit my doll, I think it was my Cabbage Patch doll, a matching sweater. So my mom and I and my Cabbage Patch doll all had sweaters made out of this rainbow yarn. I wish that I had any idea where that sweater was and where the sweater was for my doll. It's so funny because my mom holds on to absolutely everything, and I don't think that we still have my childhood sweater or my doll's sweater. We have everything else. I mean, I've been looking at her go through 40 years of the entire house as they're preparing to move down to South Carolina. And actually, they just went through a whole bunch of things in the attic, and I am now staring, right at this moment, I am staring at E.T., a Rainbow Bright doll, and some My Little Ponies. All things that I, said goodbye to long ago, and she still held on to tight. So we're really throwing it back to the 80s today. So I don't have information on this yarn. I think I did come across the label for it a couple of years ago, but I'm sure that I threw it out because, I don't have the yarn anymore. I think that it was a Lion brand yarn, and I believe the label said it was 100% acrylic. Now my mom was pretty sure that this had mohair in it, but I don't know. Do you guys know, I guess that is there an acrylic version of mohair? I'm not really sure. I'm not sure at all. But yeah, so I don't have any information on this pattern. But I love this sweater, and it fits me perfectly. But it's got this cable pattern on the yoke, and I guess a little bit of a rib, maybe looks like a 1x1 rib. in between these braids of cables, and there is a cable pattern going down the entire sleeve, and then you can see like the sleeves are nice and blousy. So I really like it. I don't often wear things from, you know, things that my mom used to wear or anything. Usually it's not my style, but for some reason I really fell in love with this sweater. And yeah, I mean, it's not, I don't think that back in the 80s, I don't think that it was as common to use actual wool. And I mean, I know that it existed like in other countries, but like as far as purchasing wool at a store, like a craft store, that wasn't, from what I can figure out, wasn't really readily available to most people. So, and my mom always thought that wool was incredibly scratchy. And I think these days with all of the projects that I knit, she is really surprised by how soft everything is that I knit from wool. And so I think that probably whatever experience she had had with wool as a kid or a young adult was probably like the very scratchy kind, and she's just kind of equated that all wool is scratchy. And, you know, of course we know that that is not true, but yeah, I believe that this is 100% acrylic. It's like a variegated yarn, and it kind of reminds me of a marled yarn, like where you would hold one color. See if I can get like a steady close up. It's like, it's got a blue all the way throughout, and then the rainbow colors change. So it seems so close in alignment with the kinds of things that we are knitting for ourselves these days. And I just thought it was a really fun sweater to bring out and show you guys. So I don't know if anybody knows what this pattern is, if anybody recognizes it from, you know, oh my gosh, 40 years ago, right? I don't know exactly what year. It was probably the mid 80s that she knit this in. But it is so cute. It fits me perfectly. So yeah, I have no idea what this is, but that's what I am wearing today is a sweater that my mom made and passed down to me. Okay, so I do not have any finished objects today. I do have a hoe, which falls into the knitworthy category. So let's move on into knitworthy. Okay, so I feel like I have been showing you the same sock every week because I had just finished knitting a pair of these for myself, and now I am working on knitting a same matching pair of sock with my leftovers for my son Owen, who is 7. So it's really great. I can get out of 100-gram skein of sock yarn and a pair, like a matching 20-gram mini, I can get a pair of socks for both myself because I have small feet and for my son. So it's a great way for me to use pretty much all of the yarn that I have. This is sock yarn from my Knitterly Things sock club subscription. Julia over at Knitterly Things made, what color is this? This is called Burning Leaves. And I love the color of this yarn. And I don't know, she doesn't name the minis usually, but this is the mini that she included with it. And I have finished one of Owen's socks. So I've gotten now 3 socks done out of this yarn. And as you can see, I have enough to still knit another one. And we'll probably definitely have a little bit of this main color left over still. So I love making Owen socks that match mine. It's a great way for me to feel like I'm getting the most out of my yarn, and it's so cute to have matching feet. So sometimes we wear our matching socks on the same day, and it just makes me smile so much. So that is my hoe, my half finished object for today. I love the way that this yarn knits up, and it's very gender neutral, love it. We both like the colors. I'm usually pinks and purples and all that, but I thought that these are just really fun for the fall, and I wore them the other day. Actually, I wore them on last week's episode with my brown sweater. So yeah, now I have a pair of socks that go really well with my brown sweater. All right, so that is knitworthy for today. Next up, let's go into whips. So I have an update on my 2 at a time socks project. So this is my very first pair of 2 at a time socks, and this is a pair of socks that I cast on a year ago on Valentine's Day and had I had knit like half an inch of the cuff and then put it down and never picked it up again until a couple weeks ago. I picked up this sock blank on the Long Island Yarn Crawl, and it is from Jessie of Yarn Over New York. And that was the first time I had ever encountered sock blanks before. And I was really curious about it. And so I picked up a sock blank. This is probably from like 2018, like a long time ago now, 4 years ago. And it has been sitting in my stash. So last year I picked it up and I said, I'm finally gonna knit this thing up. And I don't know, I promptly put it back down, and I have been now trying to work through my lingering whips, all of the things that I had cast on within the last year or so and just have not yet finished. So this is a pattern that I am doing from the 2 at a Time Socks book by Melissa Morgan Oakes. And I picked the Be Mine pattern, which is this really cute heart cabled pattern. So that is the pattern that I am using. And I know that it is best, like a cable pattern will show up the best if you use either a solid or a tonal yarn. But these are my socks, they're going on my feet, and I thought it would be fun to knit the heart sock blank up into a heart cable pattern. Why not? So, oh my gosh, I'm actually getting really excited about these. I have made so much progress on these. So these are upside down right now. And you can see the heart cable pattern. I've got string in front of my face, but you can see the heart cable pattern. I will hold them up close. But guys, look at all the progress that I have finally made. I am halfway through the feet now. And so I wanted to talk to you about what I did for the heels. But first, let me show you an up close of the cable pattern. So you can see the hearts, and I know that they're there. I'm wondering, sometimes in different light, they show up better. But, you know, I'm not worried about it. I think it's cute, and I wonder if I like stretch it out a little bit more, if you can see it a little bit better. Yeah, I know that they're there, so that's all that's important, right? Okay, so when I was knitting these up, the sock blank went 2 times through the rainbow hearts. So there was like, I'm in the purple now, but this was twice as long. So I'm definitely gonna have plenty of sock blank left over as well. When I got to the heel, I decided that I wanted to keep the integrity of the rainbow order in the cable pattern. And so the colors are not completely lining up. Like, it's not 1 heart per color. It's kind of like 1.5 per color. But I wanted this rainbow order to stay consistent down the main leg and foot of the sock. So when I got to the part for splitting for the heel, I decided to take a break from the sock blank, and so I was trying to figure out what yarn I wanted to use for my heels and maybe also my toes. I haven't decided yet. I think I will use the heel yarn for my toes as well. And so I went looking through all of my leftovers from my socks, and I still had a good amount of this rainbow sparkly sock yarn left. This was a colorway also from Julia over at Knitterly Things. This was called Paint Box, and it is sparkly. There's red in there too, and it's rainbow. It's beautiful. I had knit two pairs of socks out of this because I knit one for me, and then I also knit a pair of socks for Owen. But the reason that I still had a good amount of this left over was because for Owen's socks, I used a contrasting yarn for heels and toes. I think I gave him orange heels and toes because orange is his favorite color. So I still had a whole bunch of this left. And so I said, perfect, I can use this yarn a third time. And this was one of my favorite yarns, so I was really excited to dig into that again. And so, you know, it's a little bit different. I think this was actually the first one that I did. Picked up actually right into these greens. It kind of is the same color order as where I left off. So in the leg, I had just started to get into the green from the heart blank, and my heel yarn started with a little bit of the yellow, and then there's two different shades of green, and then blue, and then purple on the heel. So I thought that looked super cute. And the other one is a little bit different. So I had left off this one. So I knit the heels one at a time, incomplete. I did the heel flap and then the heel turn completely before I did it on the other sock. So this one I left off with the purple there. And so then this one, I started with that same purple, and then we got all the way back to that same yellow that I started with in this heel. So I've gone through all of the colors between both socks of the stripes in the sock, and it's so cute. I think that these are adorable, and they're super fun. I don't know. These went from being such a frustrating project to actually making me super happy. I'm really glad I stuck with the 2 at a time socks. I did find that once I had knit maybe this much, it got way less tangly and twisty and less frustrating. I was able to keep everything pretty separate. I probably should have gone and woven in the ends from the cast on, especially at first. It was these ends that got really, really tangly, but I've just kind of been bunching them up inside the sock itself to keep them out of the way. But as you can see, they fell out. Yeah, so these socks initially, you know, I cast them on Valentine's Day 2020, or right around Valentine's Day. And initially it was going to be my goal to get these off the needles for this Valentine's Day, but instead I ended up working on them all through Valentine's weekend and for the few days after. So I am pretty sure that these are going to be my next finished object, and that I will be able to get these done for this Whips weekend video, because let's see, today is Thursday, so I will resume these tomorrow after work if I don't get back to them tonight. And yeah, these will be definitely a finished object by the next podcast, because I just have a little bit more. I'm halfway through the cable of the purple heart, and so then I need to try them on. I have pretty short feet, and so what I have to decide is, and I have to try them on to see, like, do I think I would be able to get through another repeat of the heart, or should I just switch and stop doing the cable pattern? Because I don't want to stop mid-heart to move on to the toe. I want to be able to like have that heart cable pattern in full. So I'm just going to need to try it on and see, you know, I'm 8 rows into a 16 round repeat for the heart. So after I finish this heart, I'm going to try them on, and if it looks like I still have a bit of knitting to go before starting the toe, then I'll probably do one more heart repeat and I'll be getting back into this red. If not, I don't know. I have to see, like, do I want to knit just plain stockinette in this for a little bit without doing the cable pattern if I'm not ready to start the toe right away. So that's the only thing I really have to figure out is the length of the foot itself in relation to how much of the cable pattern I can do. But I definitely have enough of this, more than enough to do toes on both socks. So I would like to continue in this yarn once I finish the cable pattern. So that is my plan for these. I'm so excited to having, so these are my February socks. I've knit, I knit one pair of socks for myself in January, which was these socks that I'm now knitting for Owen. And so now these are my February socks, and I would like to knit at least one pair of socks for myself every month. That would be an increase in the amount of overall socks that I will have knit for the year. And I just always like having socks on the needles. So I'm really excited to have these almost done. But then, you guys, I'm still gonna have like half of a sock blank. So I have to decide, you know, maybe I bet I would have enough to make a pair, definitely a pair of shorty socks, or maybe a pair of socks for one of my nieces. I don't know. Owen's not going to want the pink socks. Even though he likes rainbow, I think that this is going to be too pink for his particular taste. Or do I just make another pair of socks for myself 2 at a time and not, you know, I wouldn't do the cable pattern again. I would want them to be a little bit different. So yeah, I'm still going to have plenty of sock blank left over. All right, so that is it for the sock knitting I have done. I have another accessory on the needles. You guys, I was hoping to not have to bring out this segment again anytime soon, but we had a pretty big knitting attacks yesterday. Again. We're gonna have to go into knitting attacks. I just realized how well this yarn matches 80's sweater. It goes so well. Okay, so I am test knitting. Yes, I said the words test knitting. If you guys missed my explanation in last week's episode, I had said I was not going to do any more test knits, but then my husband's singing colleague, Nola Richardson, she is Nola Louise Knits on both Ravelry and Instagram. She had approached me a year ago, and she said that she was starting to dive into pattern design and was hoping that when she was ready to release any patterns that I would be willing to test knit for her. And so a year ago I said, of course I would. So of course, right after I said I wasn't going to do any more test knits, she was ready to release her first pattern. So it was actually really good timing because I wasn't bogged down with any test knits since I had just completed my last one. And it's a super small project. So this is the Cloisters Hat, and it's part of the Cloisters set. I will insert some pictures. There is the hat pattern. There is also a mitts, a fingerless mitts pattern, which I also will be knitting, though those are not going to be part of my test knit obligation. She's just requiring one project for the test knit. So I am doing the hat, the mitts, and then there's also a beautiful cowl, part of the set, which I would love to knit that, but I don't have enough yarn for that. So we'll have to see if that becomes something I knit in the future. But, all right, so I have made a bit of progress with this hat. Let's see if I can get the pattern to show up here. You know, I put a picture in so you can actually see the pattern. It is beautiful. There's moss stitch, and there is cabling, and there is, what is it called when you, like, backwards purl? No, not backwards purl. I forget what it's called, but it's when you do through the back loop instead of through the front loop for the knit stitches. Twisted rib, that's what it is. Twisted rib for the brim. So we've got twisted rib, and then the cables, a lot of those are done through the back loop as well, and moss stitch, and it is just absolutely beautiful. Probably, I think last time I had only knit up to about here, so I've put on maybe another couple of inches of the hat. I think I'm about halfway through the pattern now, and after maybe another 10 rows or so, I will be starting decreases. So this is well on its way to being a finished object. So what happens with this hat? So yesterday, I had some time to sit down and knit and said, all right, I'm gonna put another handful of rows on my test knit hat. And so I sat down and got out my chart, and I knit 2 rows. And then for some reason, I swiped away from the pattern. I think what I needed to do was go back, because the next row had like a different cable in it, and I just wanted to refresh my memory on what order all my stitches went in, whether I was knitting, whether I was purling for the cable. So I went over, and because I do everything on my phone, so I scrolled over to the key so that I could just refresh my memory on what to do. And then I scrolled back to the chart, and here's where it all went wrong. So when I scrolled back to the chart, my knitting, all of a sudden, the row that I was on and the chart, it wasn't lining up. And so, you know, I had maybe only been knitting for 15 minutes at this point. I had put 2 rows on the hat, and I said, oh my goodness, I must have knit the wrong 2 rows. Like, I must have started a few rows higher in the pattern because it wasn't lining up to what I saw on the chart. So then I tinked my way back all 2 rows that I had knit, which thankfully it's a hat, so the circumference is small, but still it takes twice as long for me to tink back as it does for me to just knit, right? So at this point now, I've spent 15 minutes knitting 2 rounds, and then another probably 30 minutes tinking back. So we're 45 minutes in now, and I should be right back to where I started. I, for the life of me, could not figure out where I was in this chart. I was like, I felt like I was going crazy. So I tinked back some more. I said, why is this not lining up with what I see on the chart? Everything had been going swimmingly, perfectly fine. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't figure out where the heck I was. And nothing was lining up with what I could see on the chart visually. So I'm serious, like another 15 minutes, tinking back some more, trying to knit like the first, you repeat, I've got my stitch markers in here. So, you know, I didn't have to knit or unknit an entire round really at this point to try to figure out where I was. I was just going backwards, taking back to the next stitch marker and trying to figure out where I was on this chart. And I felt like I was like slamming my head against the wall because I could not figure it out. Well, it turns out that this is what happened. When I scrolled away from the chart that I was looking at initially to look at the symbol, I was good. When I went back to the chart, I scrolled back accidentally a page too far. I am knitting the hat in size small. I was looking now at the chart for the size medium, which was never going to line up with my knitting because it was a different chart. And chart size large also. So it's small, medium, and large, and each size has a different chart. So I should have been knitting on size small chart, which I was. And I had accidentally gone to the size medium chart. So what did this mean? This meant that the first, when I sat down initially and knit for 15 minutes, the 2 rounds that I did, I had done it correctly. But when I went back to continue, I convinced myself that I had knit the wrong 2 rows, but I hadn't. I had knit the correct 2 rows. It was from this point that I was looking at the wrong chart. So that's where everything started going wrong. So I unnecessarily tinked back 2 rows that I had knit correctly, and then tinked back some more, trying to figure out where it went wrong, when really nothing had gone wrong in my knitting. I had done everything correctly until I just started looking at the wrong chart. So now, after like, it was like an hour and a half of my time yesterday that I spent knitting and tinking and knitting and tinking on this hat, and I have made 0 progress. I was so mad at myself and I was so frustrated that I was like, I can't believe I just tinked back all of this knitting that I had done correctly. There was no reason for any tinking to happen. And I wasted, from that point, like another hour of my time. And then I had nothing to show for it. An hour and a half of my day where I was going to make a few more rows of progress on this hat turned into nothing. Nothing. My own damn fault again. Again. I don't know what is going on. Why am I having knitting attacks recently? My husband says it's because I had him make me a thumbnail for the segment and told him, I hope I won't have to use this frequently. And now here we are, 2 episodes in a row, having knitting attacks. Anyway, I put it away at that point and I went and ran some errands. I was like, I need to go buy more shampoo and conditioner. And so I went to Ulta. And then I did not pick this up again last night. I was like, no, we're gonna talk about this on the podcast today. I'm gonna get it out of my system. And then I can breathe and resume. So anyway, this, I tried it on my head already. It is going to fit beautifully. It is a beautiful pattern and her charts are brilliant. Just make sure you're looking at the right chart for the right size. That's all. Okay, so we are going to breathe now. And we are going to return to whips. I have one more project that I spent time working on this week. Okay, so going back to some happier knitting, I returned to my Junction sweater, and I actually did quite a bit more work on this. You can see it is continuing to grow. So Junction is a pattern by Andrea Mowry, Drea Renee Knits, and I think, oh my gosh, I'm stuck in my knitting. I think that I am done knitting the body. I just measured it. And I think I'm there. I'm within half an inch, and I have a short torso, so I think I'm done. And I really want to be careful not to knit too much length on the body, because there's still going to be ribbing down here. And as I said last week, this is all of my main color yarn that I have left. So, all right, the yarn that I'm using is a combination of this Harrisville Designs yarn, which is yarn that I picked up. It's mill ends. So if you go to their retail store, you can find bins and bins and bins of like yarn that is not the correct specifications for like what they normally sell, right? So this is a fingering weight. So I think now somebody suggested to me to check out their daylights. And I'm not sure, like while this in appearance looks like it resembles the daylights, this was advertised as a fingering weight yarn, and I will check, but I believe that the daylights is more of a DK. So mill ends, it's like leftovers that, you know, maybe they don't have enough yardage, or maybe like if this was supposed to be daylights, it's not the same weight yarn as what they sell as daylights. So I do not know how much yardage this is. I had 2 of these, and it was much bigger. It was like this big. So I still have to do the sleeves, and I really want this to be long sleeves. So what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is, I feel like ribbing could be fudged with a different yarn maybe more easily than sleeves. So, all right, these are my options. This is what's going through my head, is that I go ahead and knit the ribbing now and finish the body. And then whatever I have left in this after doing that ribbing, I will weigh out and divide into 2 equal skeins and dedicate 1 per sleeve, so that no matter what length the sleeves end up being, they will be the same. So that's kind of what I want to do, is just go ahead and knit the ribbing on this right now. I think that I'm just not sure how much I'm gonna have left to do full sleeves, which is why I'm considering waiting on the ribbing for the bottom of the sweater, splitting this for the sleeves now, knitting the sleeves, and then going back and adding ribbing. I'm not really sure which way to do it. So now, if I did need to purchase yarn, like say that they didn't have, mill ends that resembled this anymore. If they do have a daylights shade so it's got like this little, can you guys see that little like light specks of like seafoam green in there? I don't even know. I haven't looked to see if they have a daylights color that is with that green. No idea. But say that they do, and say that it's a DK weight yarn. Would it look weird to do the ribbing in a DK weight yarn and just have the ribbing? Because the ribbing, I'm imagining, I haven't even looked at the pattern. I'm imagining it'll be similar to this, right? So I don't know. I don't know what to do. I've got plenty. This is my own hand spun, and I have plenty of hand spun. So it's not, the hand spun is not the problem at all. It is this. I might have enough to do both the ribbing and the sleeves. I don't know. So that's where we're at. I love this sweater so much. We're getting close. I'm just a little bit nervous about how long are my sleeves gonna be? What is it gonna look like? Am I gonna have enough yarn? Do I do the sleeves and then figure out the ribbing? Or do I do the ribbing, divide this up with whatever I have left for the sleeves and just until I run out? Keeping in mind that I have to also have ribbing on the cuffs. What would you do? Tell me, what would you do? What advice do you have for me? All right, guys, that is all of the knitting content that I have for you today. Yeah, so a shorter and sweeter episode than most weeks. I was hoping to have some spinning to share with you guys, but honestly, I have not picked it up since I started spinning it 2 episodes ago. So that is something that I am planning and hoping to get back to soon. We'll see if this happens or not. No promises at this particular moment. We will see. I know that, so Nora Gone came out with a brand new book yesterday, and I just found out about it. And so when I take Owen up to theater later this afternoon, so I don't have it right now. I'm planning to go to my bookstore, and I know that they have it in stock there if somebody else has not already snagged it. So I want to go to the bookstore and have a look at it and see if it's something that I want to pick up. And I am thinking it is going to. I'll insert a picture of the book here. I forget what it is called, but it is like knitting pleats. And oh my gosh, do you guys remember, like I've got this right here. So this is shawlography. There was this section of shawlography that had these like little welts in it, which is like little folds in your knitting. And so her book, on the cover of her book, it looks like, that didn't work well. Oh my goodness. So on the cover of her book, it looked like a whole bunch of, like, she had like this circle of pleats. It was lovely, and it looks very intriguing. And so I am really eager to go have a look at that at the bookstore. So, yeah, if I snag that today, I might pop back on here with a little acquisitions section. So I'm going to kind of leave that possibility open. But yeah, otherwise, that's everything I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for joining me again this week. I am looking forward to hearing your thoughts on how I should continue my Junction sweater, because I'm excited that is getting to the point now where we're about to go on to Sleeve Island, and yeah, will I have enough yarn? Will I not have enough yarn? What would you do? So thank you for joining me again today. If you find that you keep coming back to hang out with me and have not already subscribed, I would love if you could hit that subscribe button, and please leave me a comment below. I love interacting with you guys and getting to know you all through the comments. So have an amazing week, and I will check back in with you guys very soon. Bye. You want to say hi? We have a visitor today. If you guys have watched any of my vlogs or my weekend whip videos, this is Samson. Hi, can you say hi to the camera? Can you say hi? And he pretty much hangs out on me while I knit, and yeah, hi. You see the back of his head a lot because he's always like this on me. I would love for people to see your face. Can you show your face? Hi, come here. Can we show your face? No? Are you camera shy? Are you camera shy? Hi. No? Come here. Look, can we see your face? Come here. Oh, Let's see. No, he's not gonna. Sam is 15. His name is Samson. I also had Delilah until a year ago, and we had to put her to sleep. It was very sad. But Delilah was 12, and Samson is 15. He has all kinds of kidney issues. And he's pretty much on his 15th life for the last few years. We kept having situations where I didn't think he was gonna make it, and he keeps just kind of popping back to life. I know. And he is my baby. I have had Samson longer than I have known my husband. So Samson, as my husband says, Samson is highest on the totem pole of my boys, and then probably Owen, and then my husband. You know, I love them all equally. But this is Samson. And yeah, so he's my baby. Hey. No? You're not interested in showing that cute little face, huh? He's sweet. No? That's it? It takes him a while to figure out what he wants to do because he's old. Here, come here. Let's see that face really quick. Can you show him? Look. Hi. There you go. There you are. Look. Hi. Can you say bye-bye? Bye-bye. Thanks for watching, everybody.